Going into this, you know, you guys at home love this as well, and by all means play along with us on socials. Myself here, what can I say? I got very lucky. They're in first place right now, 188 points. It was a good day yesterday, but you know, can they hold out and continue that? Vivid, talk us through Stretch and Commandment.
Yeah, me and MDF are going to be hoping that Stretch and Commandment perform a little bit better today. They are sitting right now in 13th place with 113th points, so about 70 points behind first place, but a lot to play for today, and they gotta improve on their play style.
And like I said, Acorn Kanata, they're a day 2 team. They're gonna lock it in and finish up on top, at least I hope so, as well as Sundown sticking with his guys Pamstu and Fatch. They're sitting in 16th, also in striking distance to make a run here on day 2.
Yeah, go on, Pamsto and Fatch. I love that Sundown literally week on week has been championing these guys. It could happen. It's still, I think they're in 16th right now. Anything's possible on FNCS Finals NAE. We know this time after time. Again and again, we've seen that happen. It is time for game 1. We are going to be heading into the action right here. The final act is upon us. Let's head over to the almighty MDF and Sundown to jump into the action for us. Fellas, over to you. Let's do it, boys.
Thank you so much, Adam, Vivid, and SBG. And what's up, Fortnite fam? My name's Sundown, joined by Monster D-Face to call the final 6 matches here in NA East. And Monster, as they broke it down, the top of the table is real tight.
Oh man, it's getting really, really close up there. You see what separates the competition is really coming down to placement points, who can make end games. And we all know day 2 is always the much more difficult day as teams start to assess what went wrong in the previous day. New strategies begin to come out. You just need to hope and pray it doesn't affect your performance and your strat, right? The route that you've created coming out of day 1.
Yeah, you have to be able to buckle down because as we've seen, and I feel like it's in duos in particular, where teams will really hit the vase. They'll go back and say, hey, this spot of the map is open, or this team rotates really early and we can grab some of their loot and maybe ambush them afterward. And we've seen some really varying performances from day 1 to day 2, where teams have, I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but strung together 3 or 4 games and really put themselves in contention. But right now, my eyes are on the top of that leaderboard because they're separated by a couple of elims here and there.
Yeah, definitely. It all comes down to this last game here, or this final set of games. Let's get ahead and jump on this battle bus because it sounds like it's ready.
Game 7 of 12, 1 of 6 today, and welcome if you're just hopping aboard the battle bus. Well, we've had a lot of very interesting fights going down right off of the rip. Generally, Greasy has been where we started. I mean, we saw Rise and Agers as well as Nounsy and Sprite going head-to-head. It was a 4-2 score there yesterday, but we'll hop on board and see what the analyst desk was talking about, Monster, here with that very quick loot in and out from Bucky and Cam, and, well, we know there's a reason for it this time.
Yeah, definitely love this here. They found themselves a nice little llama there. Very worth jumping out, but here's that fight they wanted to see. Sprite and Nounsy get a quick touchdown here as things are going to start breaking out, and it seems like it's another battle for the coolers inside main building. Nounsy, unfortunately, only finding a sniper here, so Sprite and Nounsy surely at a disadvantage right now. You have to assume so. Yep, Agers and Rise here are pretty comfortable with shotguns in hand.
Yeah, I mean, that auto shotgun, we've talked about how strong it can be, particularly early on when your opponents don't necessarily have that maximum amount of HP, and getting the slightly better drop and controlling the interior of that main house has given them just the infinitely better loot so far. And you can see, actually, Sprite and Nounsy don't have any shields.
And this is the way you want to play this. They make quick do of getting their HP up, and now comes the full push on inside. Can you get them before they start to situate? That's a great tag there and a shield crack. That's going to be all the confidence that they're going to need to go ahead and want to push this fight in. Sprite trying to play the pillar here, but it's a cheeky angle for Nounsy up top. He finds that one too, and just like that, they find themselves quick 6 points here, cleaning up Greasy Grove, now having the entire POI to themselves.
Yeah, and for those of you who are just joining us, did not follow those fights yesterday, the score now is 5-2. Agers and Rise have the advantage. However, you might think, why do they keep taking this fight? Well, whoever has won that fight has done exceptionally well in every single game. They've made it all the way through the end. They've been able to get off points, but they are both just ramming their heads into each other there. And it's been relatively close. 4-2 coming in today, 5-2 to start. We'll keep an eye on kind of how that ends up turning out as we take a look at some of our other teams up at the top and what's going on with them.
looking pretty good right now. This is their draw spot. They have it completely to themselves. As we know, they tend to do just this, right? You max out your metal, and then they play for prime positioning to the top of the analyst table's point, though. It's about getting out quickly and playing for those big drops. They did well in the first 3 games. On over to the Covert Cavern, though. Seems like you have some action to kind of fill in this early game void. Mind you, these are teams that need to have exceptional day 2s right now if they want to stay in the competition and, you know, earn themselves some big prizing, because there's a lot to fight for, right? We can see teams truly jump their way up into those additional prizings, especially if you can get inside the top 10.
Yeah, and don't forget, just because you're not at the top, we still have 6 games of Fortnite to be played. A lot can change, and there's still money on the line for those additional placements. We saw the breakdown at the top. Their share of I think it's 637 and then 500. I don't know. It's some numbers in this. Right around $600,000. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of money. But to be honest, for most of these players, the thing they're more interested in, that Axe of Champions, man, they care about that clout instantly coming through. I mean, I saw the Asia winners less than, I believe, 5 minutes after they'd had that victory royale come through. Literally already had the post out on the social medias, as you say, Monster, with them holding the axe, a nice little sunset in the background.
Yeah, gotta flex it out, man. Gotta show it off. That's what it's all about. The money's nice, but the legacy, right? The story that you build, becoming kind of engraved in that roster of FNCS champions is everything to these players, and that unique cosmetic, man, you can't hide it.
Yeah, and engraved also in Legends Landing. If you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, make sure you check it out in-game. It's a place where you can get the box fight-ins. You can earn the drops if you're just hanging out in there, watching in there. You can end up checking out the mannequins, some of the outfits that are in there, and as well as, you know, catching all the action, because we're going to catch the action. Knifer and Violet, very interesting team. Currently, I would say the gatekeepers to the top 5, sitting in 5th right now. You can see on the top right-hand side, OMG, Me Too, and Violet are the only players in the top 10 who are competing in their first NAE FNCS final, and so far, they've had a pretty good showing of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, being inside the top 5 coming out of a day 1 performance is absolutely phenomenal. All you have to do is continue to remain consistent, which their draw spot can provide just that. You know, I mean, talk about limiting any kind of factors that can, you know, alter your gameplay. Having a llama consistently is definitely the big play for Milks and Rhythm. They're trying to find themselves a nice little Storm Surge trade here. I think a few tags, okay, onto 20 in reciprocal. They're going to go and back off. Not enough for them to fully commit or anything, but these are very, you know, imperative and crucial tags to staying in the game for the long run.
Yeah, it looks like we're going pretty far south. One of the things on that northern part of the map are generally almost anywhere if you're committing to the outside in that rotation. While there is a solid amount of loot there, especially if you kind of hop in the boats and chain some of those fishing spots together, the sight lines from the players who are on the interior are absurd. If they're able to get an MK7, they can always just basically do a quick 180, throw some shots your way, and you're constantly just having to eat in to some of those materials you're farming to just even cover yourself. And you saw just how they were getting those shields constantly chipped out, but we're going to hop on over. 33 users. Man City threats, making sure they get the chonkers onto the Whiplash. A little bit extra mobility when moving around the map.
Yeah, for a second there, I was wondering where is this teammate, but he is just south of him. So they're starting to split up here. Stretch and Commandment have a long way to fight their way into the top 5 if they want to start pursuing that big, heavy placement position by the time this is all over. But being inside the top 13 is not bad by any means. I figure if you can break into that triple-digit mark, I mean, you've sort of done the hard part for day 1, right? It keeps you very much in the game. You just have to have a great day 2. And, I mean, they're on track so far. Take a look at the loadouts here. Very strongly positioned as well, right in between several teams that have to make a move on through. So, you know, they can take fights like this. Look for these exchanges and these trade shots.
Yeah, so if in terms of the points, looking at the bottom left-hand corner, our current leaders coming to the match, we're sitting at 188. One thing to note, though, minus the 2 victory royales on clicks in day yesterday, a lot of our points are really spread out, and that's where they got majority of theirs. So what does that mean? A team who ends up winning normally is gaining right around 50 points. It's 32 for the win. Give them 6 eliminations times 3. That's another 18. So 50 points going in there. If you're able to kind of get that 50-point game, so say if Stretch and Commandment were able to get a W here, and then a couple of the top teams drop down, all of a sudden they go from 13th to right into that top 5, maybe top 7 conversation. And all of a sudden, Monster, if coming into this day number 2, you chain together 2 pretty solid games like we saw yesterday from Jamper and Dukes right off of the start, that adds up super quickly.
Very possible. Absolutely very possible. And, you know, the same thing goes in reverse for the top tier teams, right? Yes, you had a great, you know, succession of games yesterday, but a few dropped rounds and all of a sudden you are right down in the melting pot with everyone else trying to claw your way up and, you know, find yourself a breakaway position. So it can really go both ways. It's a double-edged sword the way these positions and these games play out. These next 6 are so important. No one's on track to end the tournament early. That's a fact. So we're going for all 6 here. It's going to be all or nothing.
Yeah, we did talk about that match point format a little bit yesterday and a little bit today, but just so y'all are aware, particularly based on the scores we've seen, we aren't going to see that here in NA East. And if you are, it's going to be less of a match point rule and more of a mercy rule because somebody is just dominating so hard today that they've really put the competition that far behind them. For reference, the going on, I believe, 4 time in a row FNCS champ down in Brazil, that final match is wrapping up right about now. They're going into that final match with like 489 or 497 points like that. They've won 5 of the 11 games already. So even if we go all the way through, it's going to be tough. Go ahead, Monster.
This is an important fight right here, though, for OMG.me. Right now, 4th place. And Shadow1X, who are on the run here, getting chased down by a team that's probably looking for some big surge tags here. It's Cracked and Owl. Owl lining up the split here. Just like that, your tournament can end, so you do have to be very, very cautious, especially when you're sitting inside those 1-story high bases. That's what you saw right there out of OMG and Shadow. They were in a very low base, and you just had Owl all of a sudden sneaking up behind them, and they almost purged in, but Shadow was just a little bit more cautious and aware of his surroundings. He managed just to find them out.
This zone reveal gets real awkward. You see in the right-hand corner, you're talking about them getting bogged down in this fight. They have a duo rotating right behind them. They have Owl and Cracked right in front of them as well, who have invested a solid amount of hard materials here. Granted, if they can get into Greasy, the refarm isn't awful, but I mean, OMG.me too isn't covering his back, and luckily for him, if you check the bottom right-hand corner, the duo I talked about actually just swung wide around the side, so making sure there's no one there. It looks like Owl and Cracked are leaving a little bit early, but right now, Spade and Chimp, they're posted out right on top of a reboot van, and it looks like they got eyes for something.
Yeah, they're looking at that weakened wall over there. Wait for the edit there, and it's a 3-2-1 situation. They get a couple big tags in there, and that's really all they were looking for, right? Not the elimination, it's all those extra free tags. Had some headshots snuck in there. That would have been probably the most ideal situation, but hey, you know what? They'll be extremely happy to have found all of those body tags here. And think about this, guys. This is our 2nd place team you're watching. Once again, the Masters at work here. Little plays like that are the difference maker for staying away from the surge, staying out of the threat. And this is something that Jamper and Dukes have to do as well. So having them on screen right now is still equally important. Let's restart. Hopping into these replays, let's take a look here. Reciprocal and 20, they were lighting up the feed, so it seems like this battle ended up engaging on. Ooh, okay.
Some great shots from Reciprocal right there. That 150 close range, being able to get that. And that's just the advantage. We've talked about it, how we see a lot of players similar to what Miro has right now in his inventory, rocking that SMG plus whatever rifle you come across. And actually seeing probably more of an edge towards a Ranger than we'd seen during the qualifiers, was players recognizing just how valuable not having that really abrupt damage fall off can be. With that being said, though, if you're not holding a shotgun in those wall-to-wall fights and the other player is, you're at a disadvantage straight up if they hit their shot. Like, they will have the ability to out-trade you with that striker pump into an SMG or an MK7 swap if you just straight stick to the SMG. The SMG might have outright higher damage, but they'll have the higher burst in that situation, which if you're not hitting all of your shots, and we can see, yeah, it's relatively easy if you're right on top of someone, but, I mean, the 150, you're not getting that in light bullets.
Yeah, no, and at this moment, you're hoping that you have an AR, which a lot of teams are not going to have one right now as the surge is active. You saw when it popped there, it said 228 was the low damage number that teams are going to have to go ahead and fight, or the lowest team would have to fight their way out of. For Booga and Miro, they were just a bit above it, but now slipping behind him pretty quickly. So the distance here, the trace shots they were going for, not enough. So instead, they're going to start opting to hit the city here to see if they can find someone inside of Greasy.
And for those of you who don't know, Storm Surge will do 25 damage every 5 seconds on the 3rd, 5th, and 7th zone if we're above a particular number of players. Now keep an eye on the top left-hand corner. Storm Surge will turn on in the 3rd zone until that number says 70. We're currently at 90. That means 10 duos could potentially be under pressure here in just 45 seconds. So expect a ton of action to go down. And right now we're tuning in with 2 of our teams who are right on either side of the border. We have Booga and Mira on the left-hand side who are currently underneath it and actually just going to bounce right back up above, but might end up costing Miro a little bit. That cost him a decent amount of HP, but nice 3 points going over for them.
To be fair, that might just be enough here. That's a full elimination. You also get damage for the down body too. So for them, that couldn't have worked any better. It looked like it was a team that needed to get inside of here. So the actual play right now is for them, just kick it, right? They can, yes, fight for the 3 points, but think about it. So much fighting is already occurring here. There's gonna attract, or they can attract other attention from players nearby.
I'm very curious because that elimination was onto Owl, who was the one who was gatekeeping Shadow and Me Too. So to me, that indicates Shadow and Me Too probably ended up swinging around that southern side and are now right next to Booga and Mira, which means our 1st and 4th place teams are right on top of each other. But right now we can see Charlie and Spegu left-hand side. They are below. They're also in the zone, so they're going to start taking some damage. On the right-hand side, Knifer and Byla, who are currently in 5th place, are just now getting forced below Monster. They're going to have to go.
Yeah, they're going to have to get active here. 5 more players have to go down. There's a duo in front of them. Lucky for them, this is a fight that they can definitely take. Looks like he was attempting to set the floor. Oh, no, never mind. That was the spicy chug splash. So they're willing to commit here. That's the speed pickup and also to get them that quick HP here so they don't have to slow down. Looks for the enemy edit, but doesn't come through. Instead, it comes from the top there. This starts a Spade and Chimp. Big fight going down right now. 5th and 2nd place going toe-to-toe for Storm Surge. Knifer, one more tag away. Can Byla find one there? And no, unfortunately, he does not. Down goes Knifer. Byla should be next into the box and just gift it up to Chimp and Spade. Served on a platter. And just like that, 6 points in a top team falls in game number 7.
And they fall directly to another team who's competing with them on the leaderboard. And honestly, I think if both the Elim credits ended up going over to Spade and Chimp, that's going to put them just a couple points behind Booga and Miro. Didn't look like they picked up any additional Elims there, but they weren't under pressure. We're going to swing on over to Peterbot and Quanti, who, while 72 damage above that threshold, one duo is being hit. They are very center and stacked with a nice little group of duos who are there right now.
Yeah, big group of duos here. Have to be super cautious, but Crunchy and Pure on the other side. Right now, make a little rotate, 38 damage below. Looking for any opportunity to get in on a team. Now, he does have some heals, but this is that big problem pros start to face if you play a little too passive. Everyone's already based up. It's going to be really difficult for you to find anyone, and that's the single player between Crunchy and Pure here who are below the surge. 5 damage below. All it's going to take is a little tag, and it'll suddenly exchange hands to someone else. There's a vehicle here. This could be the moment to keep him in the game, but no tag found from Crunchy.
Trying to keep an eye on Pure, see if that number does end up going up. Now, this might be a circumstance where it's worth having one of your players go down because nobody else has to move. But as I say that, they're able to just barely get themselves above. It will shift over, and you're going to hope that that shift is enough pressure that that other duo isn't ready for it and that somebody ends up going down in this exchange. Because if it goes back over to him, Monster, they've burnt every piece of utility, and while the shields will keep you in the game, every second you're popping a shield is a second you aren't throwing bullets towards somebody else. And if you're not actually throwing shots out, you're not getting damage, which won't put you above the threshold. You're just delaying the inevitable and hoping that somebody else will impact the game. And luckily for them, it looks like Thatch is going to do just that as Nico gets confirmed, but might have not actually. We might have seen a reboot coming through. Nope, the rest of that number end up going through. Storm Surge turns off. We're now down to 67 players as Threats finds a pair in Joji and Rokane.
Also, Nico falls there. You can see at the full confirmation elimination, Polarize, found by Pamstu. So, a big trade there. Mind you, Pamstu is fighting his way up to the top 10 here. You can see
go, boys.
In the distance there. It's Pamstu and Thatch right underneath. Spade and Chimp have eyes on the team up above. If Pamstu and Thatch catch wind of this target, they could probably look to bring them down there.
Yeah, and Spade and Chimp have a great angle to start laying shots, but they're actually going to switch their targets, and I think it makes sense to put a little bit more pressure on the team underneath. You can kind of get the team above saying, hey, you guys see what's going on here? You can get a part of this, and if you're able to make a team defend from 2 different angles, from above and from a side, that's how you start having shots end up weaving in. Keep an eye on the top left-hand corner as AMT gets a knock onto Pure. We talked about just how utter shambles that team was due to the storm surge coming through. So good job by AMT to kind of take advantage of that and recognize the situation, but also pretty good job for them be able to hold on to where they were, as we'll get a replay of some of the teams following during the storm surge being able to put themselves above. What brilliant shots from Peterbot to just rescue his team there. And then they pushed the situation too.
Look at that big knock in the distance, and that is the Ranger in play. Then the full push. That is the kind of aggression you love to see, but also just the difference in having that other type of rifle with heavy damage down range. You don't really get to see it very often, so that was a rare pickup right there. For Dukes and Jamper, seems like Surge was an issue for them in the previous one. Now out of heals for Jamper, no whites to work off of, just shields here. And you can tell that they are fighting it out for the big tags here. 12 more players are going to have to go down before the 40-second mark. Otherwise, things are going to get super active. For Pamster and Fatch, it's not a problem, though. They just picked up a fresh 2-pack. Let's see how it all folds.
Yeah, keeping an eye on the French-Canadian pair, pushing down in here, getting the shots in, and honestly, that was pretty impressive there. You can tell MIH-Moo a little bit frustrated, but really good job from them being able to kind of get all that excess loot. And the benefit here, Monster, actually, we're going to pause for a second, as they're below Surge. You see that 40 below on that side, and Cracked and Owl are also below. That's on the right-hand part of your screen, so these duos are going to need to get active. They got 10 seconds, so it starts going. So despite having 4 eliminations, yes, they are just barely able to get themselves back above.
Look at this, Crack. Once again, getting pushed in here. You saw him struggle on the rotate on in, use his Mythic Web Slingers to get to this position, all of a sudden lost his shield, and now having to fend for himself and defend back. 2v1 situation, but holding his own to stay in the game. Day is definitely knocked in the feed. That's by the hands of Crack there. And that was that fight we just watched right here. It's because the Surge is active. Clix has to clutch up right now. It's all or nothing here. Here comes the Surge being thrown in, so does the lobby. Cracked ready for the right-hand peek, and just like that, Clix and Day get taken out here. Right behind them is OMG and Shadow. They were also part of that fight there, a factor in the pressure behind Clix and Day. The story, the plot thickens just a little bit as big teams start to clash here.
Yeah, the plot thickens, but if you're Clix, the plot really sickens there. That's a tough situation where they were pinned down. They felt like they're doing okay. They're fighting hip to hip, but Cracked had no decision. He had to go, and his aggression actually forced Storm Surge back down onto them. So getting the knock on today, then plus having the Surge comes through, just a little bit too much pressure for Clix while finding an angle to be able to get the shot. Good defensive play from Cracked. Good rotation from OMG, Me Too, and Shadow to get in front of the zone and then be able to about face. They're going to have an opportunity to range some shots down, because if you keep an eye on the bottom right-hand corner, there's still a decent number of teams who need to rotate.
Yeah, right now, Shadow and OMG, one of the few teams inside the top 5 still standing right now as other teams are beginning to pretty much get broken down there. Here's Booga, here's Miro, still alive right now. Users as a solo, sitting up above. Miro, Booga start to look up right now, trying to see if they can find the floorboard to bring them down. Yes, they do single out Users floor right there, but no catch. They threw the rod out. Nothing came back.
Needed better bait in that situation. Monster didn't put a big enough worm on the line there, but we see Pamstow picking up another one. They're eating good tonight. You can see their coolers plenty stocked full. They'll be tossing those on the grill and hoping to keeping it rolling right now, as we're going to swing on over. Second place team still up on their feet right now, which they were our leaders coming in. We saw Chimp actually pick up another elim. It looks like they've just barely edged out the lead right now. Chimp himself doing it with 3 elims, Monster. They're 2 points clear of them.
Another thing to mention, Iamzo and DJet finally making an end game after their strong start, bad fizzle out. So this is that day 2 performance we're looking out for. Those are the teams that have that opportunity to come back. This is what makes FNCS Final 2-day format so exciting here. You never really know who's going to continue to keep themselves in the game here. For Chimp and Spade, though, they're trying to do everything now. Shred to pieces on the rotate through, held to the storm behind him. He has to bulldoze his way in, and it's not going to be enough. Spade also focused on the back half. It's not looking good here as he is down to 9 HP. Just a few damage above here. Is there enough in the magazine to get the elim? Doesn't look like it. Back to the storm he goes. A little bit of a misplay there, and he gets ticked out. On high ground, though, it's a huge battle in the mid ground. Miro and Booga still holding on, looking very, very good here.
And we're into the cascading placement points as well. So each duo that drops is +1 points. Currently up on the high ground, we have Peterbot. Quanti trying to get a little bit ahead to provide the connection. We'll see the swing from Peterbot to go forward. That's on the left side of the screen. On the right side of the screen, we have Miro and Booga in your top right, Dukes and Jamper in your bottom right. You already saw just how delicate the balance is up at the top. Chimp and Spades were able to take it away, but just the placement points going back over to Booga and Miro will put them into first place. Still keeping eyes at the zone, will pull back actually, going over towards the old builds and going to pull a little bit out from the space as everyone's looking for a little bit of room right now to operate. We still see Pamso and Fash up on that mid-tarp as well, trying to find a little bit of room. As in the top right-hand corner, we're going to zoom on in, and Miro right on the back, 20 attacks, and that's when the OMG2, he gets taken down. But Miro needs to find that siphon, needs the HP back. He's going to be able to get it. He needs to pop some minis. He has plenty of excess shield, but what he needs is time, and the Iron Wall will buy him that.
You're watching that master play right there. Beautiful job there, noticing, still putting down the cone so he doesn't get caught out there. Shadow 1X tries his best to fend off there and get a trade, but he could not find the tag there. This is a 0 elimination game for him, something we have not seen in any of his day one performances. They were really leading the pack with the rest of the top 3 up there with eliminations. This time around, though, things just don't start to fall in the way he was expecting. What's happening up top? It's Quante and Peterbot, and all of a sudden Peterbot slammed from behind. Kanata and Agers start to swing their way on up, and yes, they have control of height now.
Kanata hit him with just the dink of a century. That was a heavy shotgun shot right to the teeth. You heard the sound effect come through, and it's brilliant. It shows you just how good and precise that weapon can be. But Quanti now on the backside of the zone trying to make the plays, and instead he gets popped like a pinata there. Great shot picking him up on the other side by Dukes. He's going to be able to pick up the points, but what we've seen so far from OMG Me 2 in Shadow, whether it's in the qualifiers or yesterday, has been these ridiculous individual efforts, and he's getting himself just outside the top 10. Maybe a little bit of a caster's curse there as he goes down to 11th. We're going to swing on over, though, to the World Cup champ and the FNCS owner here in NA East. Miro himself trying to run through, trying to push that point total up as they're up to 215 on the back of 3 limbs and another top 10 performance. But hey, Dukes is cooking as well, and so is Pamstow in the feed.
And we're seeing a lot of individuals fall, but that placement count not really come through, so there's solos in play here. Yanto taking out Trashy goes down, Stretch in another endgame, and somehow Stretch and Commandment make their way into the top 10, throw them in that conversation, fighting their way up. Dukes, though, holding on to a dear thread. 5 eliminations is what separates him from Booga and Miro here, as they manage to just edge themselves up. But here, the placement points are gonna be the difference now. 5 elims as well for Stretch and Commandment, who own the ultimate low. Not a soul in sight wants to come down to the crypts to mess with the boys down here, but material is gone. Oh no, the river's in play. This is gonna become more and more difficult now.
Yeah, you can't drop the ultimate low because it will drag you out of that zone. And I mean, we've seen what Sentin ends up doing when he's down in that area. He's so good at fighting just around that area. Excuse me, Stretching Commandment. Apologize. But on the opposite side, we see Fatchy Fishy ends up getting his run ended. But Pamso says, hello, what's that? No, it's Acorn actually taking advantage of it. He's going to take it down. There's still him and Canada running through as Booga finds a little bit of space, but no more builds. And we have just a 2v2 to close it out. And it's all veterans, Monster.
Kanata and Acorn still alive right now. Booga mixed up down low. So he's one of the few solos in the game here as Miro's completely knocked. Unretrievable. Scented is here with the side angle alongside Cold. Nothing's going to be found there for Booga. He finds the first tag, but this is it. They know better. They close him out, and a huge shot. Cold willing to go head-to-head there, and all of a sudden 10 eliminations for Cold and company. Kanata and Agers, though, trying to close this one out here alongside Acorn. Acorn and Kanata. Beautiful job right there. It's just a 2v2, a clean 2v2. Not only that, they have the mats in the hold here on the edge of the wall, but wait a second. Kanata just gets ripped up. Luckily, Acorn with the better angles closes out strong.
And a good job making sure that they had Kanata lower to be able to pressure, but Acorn still securing the victory royale up on the high ground. They will take game number 1 here on day 2 of the Chapter 3 Season 1 FNCS in NA East. And Monster, I mean, there were a lot of elims going down, but I think we're going to see a little bit of separation from our top 2, and then a couple teams who are really going to push themselves back into the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these are comeback stories right now for Acorn and Kanata. Look at this. They jump up into 5th place. We saw Stretching Commandment there jump their way on up. Sentin and Cold do the same exact thing, and that was the terrain coming into play there. You saw how that mountain all of a sudden made for the sandwich down low and the colliding of all those players, and just like that, things ended really quickly. We had a full zone of pull in front of us, but the time wasn't there.
Yeah, we went from like real quick. I was looking and it was like, oh, 8 players, 4 duos, 2v2v2. Then I looked back and it was a 5-3 real quick, and that was all she wrote. But to break down what we might have missed and what happened to the leaderboard, we're going to send it back on over to Adam, Vivid, and SVG. Gentlemen.
Yes, great game to start things off here in day 2. We saw so many vets in the end game. Some in duos, some solos, but my oh my, it was unbelievable. I think what we all love to see as well, Acorn and Canada, us sit back, back of house here while the broadcast was going live with the casters there. We were kind of saying, hello, Canada, going high ground. What? We got excited. And ending up with 8 eliminations and a victory royale. That is surely going to put those guys at least into the top, I guess, maybe they're the top 10 or so, but what a great start from those boys.
Oh yeah, they're definitely flying up the leaderboard, probably around like that top 4, top 5, because they were like 8th, 7th coming into today. But what was awesome, all of our predictions find themselves in that top 7. We saw Pamstone and Fadge, we saw Stretch, we saw Booga coming down 3rd place there with a nice parting gift onto Cole, kind of helping Acorn and Kanata in those last moments right there. SPG, you gotta be feeling good about your prediction now.
Oh yeah, I said they were a day 2 team. They're coming in strong. First game, taking that dub, boys. But generally, I think day 2 is for the veterans, because we've seen just in this first game, they're all locked in right now. They're all ready to play, and so many of these duos that we saw in those last zones were the best of the best in the region.
Yeah, we've got to take a look at, a couple of them right now. Obviously, we saw Booga there as well. You saw Dukes as well. The great thing is that when you lose one of your teammates, the fact that you can just continuously pushing through, because you know how pivotal those placement points are, particularly in the end game when so many players go down in such a quick space of time, a very short space of time. It makes all the difference. And we saw their mirror going down, but Booga just continuously pushing forward here and managing to at least keep them in amongst the top 2 or 3 positions there, Vivid.
Yeah, awesome performance out of Booga and Mira. Find themselves a duo for a very large portion of that endgame, and that's when they're really, really dangerous, when they both are alive. We talk a lot about their solo potential, but you combine their solo potential as a duo when they are actually alive as a duo, and it's just that much more dangerous. Booga was there, obviously, to just clutch up those couple more placement points, secure that 3rd place finish, and that can make all the difference when it comes down to the actual leaderboard at the end of the day.
Yeah, they're an angry team in those end games. We saw them just pushing teams, bullying them off layers, and that's what they're so good at. And we saw both our top teams, Dukes and Booga. We're going to call him Mooga from now on.
Fine.
Staying through in these end games.
Okay. Well, let's see if Mooga and Miro can still retain that top spot now on the leaderboard. Let's check it out. They are right there. Booga and Miro are currently sitting pretty at 226 points. We're right on their tails. Jamper and Dukes we saw there as well. All the kind of teams that were there, in the last kind of like final end game part there as well. We saw all had a lot of eliminations under their belt. Hence, we can see how things have really changed in the elimination bracket there as well, Vivid.
Yeah, and as previously mentioned, Acorn and Kanata will find themselves in 4th place because of that victory royale. Well played from them coming into day number 2, game 1. We see Shadow and OMG-me not too far behind, actually same amount of points, just barely losing out on that tiebreaker. Find themselves in the 5th position. Ages and Rise also winning off spawn over at the Greasy Grove. As Sundown mentioned, the score is now 5-2 against Nounsy and Sprite, so they're doing well, and I love to see it. Commandment and Stretch sneaking in. They're now 9th place.
Hey, not only them, but Fatch and Pamstu also doing really well that last game in the top 10. We did see Spade and Chimp fall early, so they didn't gain as many points, and this leaderboard's still so close after just 1 game.
It is. I mean, you can see those top 6 positions there as well. Only 30 points between the 6th and 7th position, which is a gap, but one that can easily be made back. With one good game, anything's possible here. But we can see the second half of the top 20 or the leaderboard here as well, Vivid. And again, big teams are part of this, and we can see that there are still a lot of familiar teams and duos still massively in contention.
Yeah, I think the biggest name that we're going to be looking at here is Scented and Cold in the 14th position. Listen, they had a very quiet day number 1, but to come out day number 2, game number 1, and find your place, 2nd place, that's what they love to do, right? Scented loves those 2nd place games because he just loves to dominate the lower ground. And it was really cool to see that game actually, because Stretch and Commandment were the ones actually controlling it, but Scented and Cold actually ended up taking it from them, and that's how they ended up securing themselves that 2nd place finish right there. So Scented and Cold got to keep up the strategy that they have for this day number 2 games right now.
That is absolutely spot on. We're 1 game down, 5 to go here on NAE. Let's head back to our casters, Sundown MDF, who are waiting anxiously here because we have got one massive game 2 coming your way.